morning, dear students. Good morning, all of you. Let us first see the attendance status. Attendance status of 10A. Asmita, Palak, Nandini, Anushree, Ayushi, Jui, Karunya, Riddhi, Bristi, Satyam, Anudipa, Krishna, Neha, Janhavi and Parimal, okay, have given. So 15 students so far has given the attendance from 10th A and 10B. What's wrong? Uh, 10B, Shruti, Achal, Tanvi, Atharv. Only 4 of you have given attendance. 10B. Here it's showing 14. Here it's showing 14. Seven students of 10th B have given. 8 students of 10th B have given attendance. 10A so far 19 has given. 10A 19 students have given attendance so far, and 10th B so far 9 students. So 10B needs to improve in so far as their attendance is concerned. 10B needs to improve in so far as their attendance is concerned. Tenth A 19 students so far. 10th A and 10th A so far 19 students, and 10B so far 12 students. So this is the status so far. 10B needs to improve their attendance percentage. 12, still 12 in 10B, and 10A it is 19. Okay, number is quite steady now. 10A 19, 10B 14. Okay, so dear students, let us revise today. Now, what we have done in the previous day, from there we shall start our revision from where. Okay, so dear students, as you can see here, as you can see, Nelson Mandela is an autobiographical story, as I told you before. So, what does Nelson Mandela do? Nelson Mandela is trying to Nelson Mandela is trying to describe the struggle to liberate his countrymen from, especially the black community, from the uh, clutches of the white community, for the domination of the white community, right? So this is what has been described actually in this story. Okay, now Nelson Mandela say his uh, is saying his views also as to what is courage all about, and then what happens as a result of you know uh, 2 decades or 3 decades of you can say apartheid. What are the positive as well as the negative impacts of apartheid, right? So this is what everything he is describing to us now. He is describing everything in detail to us. So today we shall learn as to what made Nelson Mandela join National African National Congress. Okay, what made Nelson Mandela join National African National Congress. Okay, was means what were the reasons? Okay, for which he joined African National Congress. This is something that we are going to learn today from this lesson, right? And till yesterday I told you it was impossible for a citizen, especially the black community of South Africa, to fulfill his twin obligations. Okay, and Nelson Mandela first went on to describe us the meaning of twin obligations. Twin obligations means your obligation or your responsibility towards your family, like towards your father, towards your mother, towards your sister, brother. That is a responsibility or obligation towards your family. Like every one of us has some responsibility or obligation for our near and dear ones, for our family members, right? And there is another type of obligation that Nelson Mandela speaks about is obligation towards the society. Society means your responsibility towards your community people, toward your responsibility towards your neighborhood, your responsibility towards your society. So every human being is born with this twin obligation. That is what Nelson Mandela says. Okay, but when it comes to it all depends on your values also. Like it is not enforceable by law, but it is something which your sanskar or your values will instill in you, right? So that is why your obligation towards your society is something which is not compulsory, of course, but it is something which we should do. We should do something for the benefit of our society, for the upliftment of our community, right? So Nelson Mandela says that every person is born with twin obligations. Twin means two obligations. Okay, twin obligations. First, he said obligation towards his parents, towards his brothers, sisters, father, mother, all this. This is what is obligation towards his family. And another kind of obligation that is talks about is obligation towards the society, right? So society, like we human beings, have something or the other to do for the betterment or welfare of the society. So he says that it was very difficult for a person of black origin or a person with dark color, dark skin to fulfill these two responsibilities. Okay, that is what it says here. In a country like South Africa, it was almost impossible for a man of my birth and color to fulfill both those obligations. In South Africa, a man of color who attempted to live as a human being was punished and isolated. Okay, so in South Africa, it is very difficult. It is very difficult, as Mandela says here, because if a man was trying to fulfill his duty towards his community, towards his people, then he would be unavoidably separated from his family and his home, and he was forced to live a life of secrecy and rebellion, right? So he says that it is difficult for a person with a dark skin color to render his service to the society, because in that case he will be singled out, he will be isolated from the family, and he will be allowed to live only in seclusion. Seclusion means only in isolation, and from there he will do rebellion. Understood? So it is difficult in a society which is not democratic in nature to fulfill your duty as a citizen for the community. And in South Africa, it was not so at all, because it was not a fair society, it was not a democratic setup, right? Then Nelson Mandela goes on to say that, and then he says that initially I was not having any choice to serve my or to give priority of the community over my family. Initially, Mandela says initially he did not have any preference of serving his community over his family, right? But in the process of serving his people, okay, in the process of serving his people, he became so very much committed towards the society, towards his own community, that he almost forgot to fulfill his duty as a brother or father or a husband. Understood? It means that Nelson Mandela means to say that initially he did not give any priority to his community or to his neighborhood or to his society over his family. But in the process of serving people, he became so very much committed towards his own people that he forgot to serve his own responsibility as a son, as a brother, as a father, and a husband. He means to say that when he started serving his own community, then he gradually detached himself from fulfilling his obligation as a family member to his family. Okay, because he became a person cannot be involved in both the places, right? In family as well as in neighborhood. It's not possible for a person to be equally involved in two different places, right? So he gave initially did not give any priority to his community, but eventually he had to give because he was born to serve humankind, like Mahatma Gandhi, like Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, like Swami Vivekanand, like Bhagat Singh. You know, they are the role models for us because they were born to serve the society, right? So as they were born to serve the society, therefore they had hardly any time to devote their time to their respective families. It was not possible for them because they are not born to be confined to their respective families. They are born to go out of their homes, go to the neighborhood, go to the community, render their best possible service to the suffering humanity of their respective communities, right? Therefore, those who are born for the cause of the society, those who are born for the cause of the community, for the country, they are not supposed to be dedicated towards their families, okay? Because in that case they will be they will be a failure in serving to the society, right? So that is why those who are born to serve the society are not usually committed to their family at the same time, because a man cannot be involved in two different places at the same time, right? Okay, now let's move on to the next paragraph. So today we shall start from here. I was not born with a hunger to be free. I was born free, free in every way that I could know. Okay, he says that when he was born, he was not born with a hunger to be free. He was free only. He was born free only, free in every way he could know. He said that he in his childhood he was free to run in the fields near my mother's heart, free to swim in the clear stream. Stream means river that ran through my village, free to roast mealies under the stars and ride the broad backs of slow-moving bulls. As long as I obeyed my father and abided by the customs of my tribe, I was not troubled by the laws of man or God. Okay, so try to understand, dear students. That is very important. These two lines are very important. What does Mandela want to say here? Mandela wants to say that as long as he was very much obedient, as long as as long as he was obliging to his parents, as long as he obliged the customs of his community. Customs means rules of his community. He was not troubled by the laws of man or God. Means he was very much peaceful. He was very much peaceful in his childhood as long as he obliged his parents, as long as he's obliged his family members, as long as he obliged the rules of his own society. But the problem started only when he started serving his community. The problem started only when he wanted to liberate his black community from the clutches of the white government. Okay, he wanted to liberate his own black community from the discrimination being meted out to them by the white government. The problem started only then. Only when he started revolting against the government, that is when the problem started. Otherwise, he said he led a normal childhood. He was born free. He was not hungry to be free because he was already born free. He in his childhood he used to run under the sky. He was very much free to go for a ride on the moving bulls, and then he was having the freedom that every child is supposed to have in their early childhood or in their childhood. He said that he had complete freedom, but the problem started only when he wanted to render his service to the community, right? Next, you see, it was only when I began to learn that my boyhood freedom was an illusion, when I discovered as a young man that my freedom had already been taken from me, that I began to hunger for it. Okay, so he means to say that his boyhood freedom was an illusion. Okay, he said that the kind of freedom that he was talking about, like freedom to move around, to take a ride on the bulls, or to he said to run in the fields near his mother's heart. So all these things are basic freedom, he says. It is given to everyone. He was not talking about when he grew up, then he understood that my boyhood freedom was just an illusion. Why illusion? Because this sort of basic freedom is given to everyone, granted to every human being, and this is not the real kind of freedom, right? That every child is supposed to do, or every child is having. But what is the real freedom he's talking about? The real freedom is, I'll explain in the course of my teaching. Now, what he says that only when he reached his boyhood, means his adolescent, or only when he reached his adult phase of life, only then he realized that his boyhood freedom or childhood freedom was just an illusion. Illusion means something that appears to be real but not real, right? So his childhood freedom was an illusion. Okay, when he could realize that as an adult, he could realize that his freedom had already been taken away from him, that he began to hunger for it. Okay, so what kind of freedom Mandela talks about, which should be there with everyone, every adult? What kind of a freedom does Mandela talks about? Let's learn. At first, as a student, I wanted freedom only for myself. Okay, he says that at first, as a student, I wanted freedom only for myself, the transitory freedoms of being able to stay out at night. This is what he referred to as transitory freedom that lasts for a just short spell of time. So he says that the kind of freedom that I enjoyed in my early childhood, that is a transitory freedom, right? That is a transitory freedom of being able to stay out at night, right? So as a student, he says, as a student, I had my freedom of being able to stay out at night, read what I pleased, and go where I choose. Okay, so he says that these are the transitory freedom. These does not last long. Okay, and these are the freedoms, which he says he doesn't want to he doesn't want to give high opinion about. Why? Because this is the basic freedom that everyone is having. Later, as a young man in Johannesburg, I yearned for the basic and honorable freedom. Now he is talking about, dear students, he is talking about the basic and honorable freedom. Okay, and ability to stay out at night, ability to read what he pleased is just a basic freedom everyone is having. But he was asking for honorable freedom. He was asking for honorable freedom. What is the honorable freedom? As a young man in Johannesburg, he yearned for the basic and honorable freedom of achieving his potential of earning. My keep means income, of marrying and having a family. The freedom not to be obstructed in a lawful life. Okay, so he said, as he grew up, first as a child, then as a student, um, he could realize that he was just yearning for the basic and honorable freedom. Okay. Um, as he grew up, his concept of freedom kept changing, dear students. Initially, in the childhood, he said, I had the freedom of roaming around in the field, taking a ride on the bulls. So, these are the very basic freedoms everyone is having. When he grew up, he could think that my childhood freedom was just an illusion. It is something which is an illusion for me. It's something which doesn't matter much, right? Then, when he grew up gradually as an adult, as a young man, he wanted freedom for himself to be able to stay at night, read what he pleased. And then again, when he older, you can say, as he grew older, then he started yearning. Matlab, he started desiring. He started desiring for some basic honorable freedoms in a lawful life, like to earn his money, then to fulfill his dream, to marry, to have a family. So these are some of the basic and honorable freedoms he wanted initially when he was committed to his family, right? But as and when he grew up and up and up, then his concept of freedom changed. Okay, then you'll find that he will say this basic and honorable freedom of marrying, earning, and all that. These are also insignificant because these are also the very basic freedom, which is what everyone is having. But I do not want only such freedom. I'm talking about a greater freedom. What is that freedom? Let's find out, dear students. But then I slowly saw that. But then he says, but then I slowly, he says, but then I slowly saw that not only was I not free, but my brothers and sisters were not free. See, this is what he is concerned about. This is what he is really concerned about. Okay, what is he concerned about? He is concerned about this kind of freedom, dear students. Okay, when he started serving the community, his own people, then he thought that the kind of basic and honorable freedom that he thought should be there is something which is very elementary but very much fundamental freedom that everyone is having. And now that he has grown up with wisdom and with knowledge, okay, he has grown old by few more years, then he changed his perception of freedom. He said, now I think that every human being in the society needs another kind of freedom. And what is that freedom? Then I slowly saw that not only was I not free, but my brothers and sisters were not free. Okay, because they were not able to express their opinion. Okay, if you are not able to involve yourself in the service of the community, okay, without any government interference, if you are not able to protest for your own rights without having given punishment by the authorities, if you are not able to form an union to get your demand fulfilled, then you are not in a democratic setup, then your freedom is not ensured. So that is the kind of freedom Nelson Mandela now speaks about, and he honors such freedom also. He says that every human being in a lawful society must be able to express his opinion independently, fearlessly. In a democratic country, in a democratic society, in a lawful country, every human being, every citizen of a country is supposed to express his opinion independently and fearlessly. Right? Number two, every human being in a lawful society, in a democratic society, is supposed to protest for ensuring his rights. Okay, that is also very much, that is a kind of freedom that is there in a democratic setup in a lawful society, which was not there in South Africa. That is why Nelson Mandela joined African National Congress. He wanted that his people must have such freedom of expression, freedom of right to protest. Okay, so freedom of forming an union to fulfill your demands, fulfill your objectives. So this sort of freedom should be there with the citizens, and this is what was not there with the people of South Africa. Especially, this was not there with the black community people. That is why Nelson Mandela was not happy, and that is why Nelson Mandela now thinks that his basic freedom in the childhood, in his adulthood, were all temporary freedom. These were not permanent freedom, because these freedoms are not involved into bringing about anything good for the society, right? So those freedom which are required to bring about a transformation in the society, to bring about some changes in the society, are the kinds of freedom that Nelson Mandela is asking us to have. Okay, he wants such kind of freedom to be available with each and every citizen of a lawful country. So he says, but then I slowly saw that not only was I not free, but my brothers and sisters were not free, and that is when um, and then he says, I saw that it was not just my freedom that was curtailed, but the freedom of everyone who looked like I did. Okay. And then he said, it was not only my freedom which was restricted, but the freedom of everybody, every black community. That is when he joined African National Congress. That is when he joined African National Congress. So there might be a question: why did Nelson Mandela join African National Congress? This should be your answer. And that is when the hunger for my own freedom became the greater hunger for the freedom of my people, freedom of my people. See, Nelson Mandela. This is a picture of Nelson Mandela, as you can see, and he says that that is when the hunger for my own freedom became the greater hunger for the freedom of my people. Okay, so he said that my freedom, my freedom became a common freedom for all the people of my community. He said that the kind of freedom that I was hungry for is the same freedom which the people of my community were also asking for, right? So that is what is the meaning of this line. It was this desire for the freedom of my people to live their lives with dignity and self-respect. See, it was this desire for the freedom of my people to live their lives with dignity and self-respect that animated my life, that transformed a frightened young man into a bold one, that drove a law abiding attorney to become a criminal, that turned a family loving husband into a man without a home, that forced a life loving man to live like a mom. Okay? So, dear students, you see, he is giving he is giving the reasons why he started to yearn for a greater freedom for his community. Why? Because he wanted to free his people so that they can live a life with dignity and self-respect. Right? That is what was the aim of Nelson Mandela. That is what animated his life. That is why he joined African National Congress. Okay, and that particular desire in his mind of liberating his people from the racial discrimination. Okay, that animated his life. He wanted to give a very gentle, ensured a gentle life, ensured a peaceful life to his community people. All right, that is what animated his life, and that is when he joined African National Congress. And as he wanted to uh, give this freedom to his community people, therefore he he said he transformed himself from a abiding attorney, means he was a lawyer before by profession, before he joined this political party. He was an attorney that time. Okay, so that is his desire to serve his people, to liberate them, and to ensure peace and freedom for them. He got converted from a law avoiding attorney to a criminal. He became completely transformed from a family loving husband. He has become a man without any home, right? That forced a life loving man to live like a mom. Initially, he wanted to have a family life. He wanted to live in his family, but as he was devoted towards the cause of his society, towards the cause of his people, therefore he had to leave his family, so that he could do service to the people, right? So that is what it says here. Okay, he says that family loving husband, he became from a family loving husband into a man without a home, because he had to live somewhere alone, somewhere away from his society. Okay, sometimes somewhere in the hiding, away from the eyes of the government. So this is how his life has completely changed, and this was changed because he became a committed political leader, who was too much devoted to bring about an end to this political system of apartheid, which was considered to be the one of the greatest social evils, right? Then he says, I am no more virtuous or self sacrificing than the next man, but I found that I could not even enjoy the poor and limited freedoms I was allowed when I knew my people were not free. Then he says that I was having freedom. I am no more virtuous or self-sacrificing than the next man. But I found that I could not even enjoy the poor and limited. He said that poor and these are the poor and limited freedom, like to be able to get married, to be able to have earning, to be able to earn money, or to be able to be roaming around in the street. These are very cheap kind of freedom. Everyone is having such kind of freedom, and he says that I am not interested to have such freedom only. I wanted some greater freedom, so that my countrymen can live with dignity and with self-respect. That is why he says, I could not even enjoy the poor and limited freedom I was allowed when I knew my people were not free. Freedom is indivisible. He says that freedom is indivisible. Freedom cannot be divided. The chains, okay, this is very important line, dear students. The chains on any one of my people were the chains on all of them. And the chains on all of my people were the chains on me. What does he mean to say by this statement? He means to say that if uh, if uh, if any one of his community people is not having freedom, it means Nelson Mandela himself is also not having freedom, because as he loves his community people, so if anyone from his community is suffering, it means he is also suffering. That is what he says, that chains on any one of my people were the chains on all of them, right? If anyone from his society and if anyone from his community is having chain is a metaphor for restriction, not having freedom. Chain is a metaphor for restrictions, right? So if there is restriction on any one member of the black community, then it is a restriction on all other members of the black community. Okay, and if all other members of black community are having restrictions, it means that Nelson Mandela himself is also having restriction, because he belongs to the community, right? So that is what he says here, right? And then you see, I knew that the oppressor must be liberated just as surely as the oppressed. This is also very, very important line, dear students. He says that the oppressor must be liberated just as surely as the oppressed. It means that who is the oppressor here? Oppressor is the person who inflicts oppression on others, like the white government. The white government is the oppressor, and oppressed is the black community of people in South Africa. Okay, then Nelson Mandela says that both oppressor as well as oppressed, both should be liberated. Okay, why? Because if someone does torture, or if someone inflicts suffering on others. Okay, then he is having a narrow mentality, right? So having a narrow mentality, having a narrow thinking is itself a disease. Understood? Because if he's not having narrow mentality, not having narrow thought, then he will not inflict suffering on others. Therefore, those who are suffering as well as those who are causing suffering to others, both are need to be liberated. Okay, then he says a man who takes away another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. He is locked behind the bars of prejudice and mindedness. Okay, he says that a man who takes away another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. Okay, because he does, it's because of hatred, because of discrimination that he takes away the freedom of another person. So if someone takes away the freedom of another person, it means that he's a prisoner of hatred. He's doing this because he is inflicting hatred, inflicting discrimination on others. So as a result of this hatred, he has become a prisoner of hatred. He is not liberated from his soul. His soul is having some restrictions, right? Restrictions of prejudice, restrictions of hatred. Therefore, he also needs to be liberated from his narrow thinking, for his narrow thought, right? That is why he's saying a man who takes away another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. He is locked behind the bars of prejudice and narrow-mindedness, right? He says that here he talks about the white government. White government is a prisoner. White government is a prisoner of hatred and narrow-mindedness. Okay, because it's because of hatred and narrow-mindedness that he is causing suffering to the black community of people. That is why as he is having narrow-mindedness, as he is having prejudice, therefore he is a prisoner in the prison of narrow-mindedness and prejudice. That is why he is also not free. Okay, just like the oppressed person means just like the black community of people are not free, the white government is also not free. Why? Because they are causing suffering to the black community of people, and they are causing suffering because they are narrow-minded, they are having prejudice, they are having hatred in their mind. So those who are having narrow-mindedness, prejudice, and hatred in their mind are not free, cannot be free. Therefore, they are the prisoners of narrow-mindedness and prejudice. Therefore, they need to be liberated, right? Then he says that I am not truly free if I am taking away someone else's freedom. He says that if I take away somebody's freedom, then I am not free. I am not free in the real sense of the term. Just as surely as I am not free when my freedom is taken from me. The oppressed and the oppressor alike are robbed of their humanity. The oppressed as well as the oppressor. Understood? Both are robbed of their humanity. Both are not having humanity, right? So both the oppressor and the oppressed need to be liberated. Humanity, why not? They are not having humanity because one is not having humanity because he has a lot of prejudice, hatred, discrimination, all this in his mind. Okay, so he is not having humanity. And those who are suffering, out of suffering, long days, long years of suffering, they have also become cruel. They have also lost their human feature like kindness, sympathy, empathy, compassion, etc. Therefore, they are also not having humanity in them. So both the oppressor and the oppressed are not having any kind of humanity. Therefore, both of them should be liberated. One should be liberated from the prison of hatred and prejudice, and another should be liberated from suffering, discrimination, misery, etc. Understood? So, dear students, that's all about this lesson. Thank you so much. And how many of you are still listening to me? Please just give me a thumbs up so that I understand that you are still there with me. Okay, how many of you are still there with me? Please give a thumbs up and then exit. Okay, our lesson has come to an end today. Our lesson has come to an end. Just give a thumbs up and exit. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Vaishnavi, Anusri, Prashi, Pranati, Janvi, Gungun. Tanvi, Nandini, Sonia, Arihant, Juhi, Athar, Asmita. Thank you so much. Thank you, Anudeepa. Uh, yes, thank you, Prashik. Thank you so much. Author, Parimal, Nandini, Tanvi, Prashik, Pari. Okay, thank you so much, dear students. Thank you so much. I hope you have understood. Again, please go through the text of Nelson Mandela. If any one or two sentences or any paragraph you think you are not able to understand, still there is some residual doubt in your mind, you shall please inform me in my next class. First, I shall address your doubt and then I shall continue with some grammar exercise from this lesson, right? So, in tomorrow's class, we shall first focus on some doubt session and then we shall move on to some grammar exercise. Thank you so much for being there with me all throughout, and till we meet tomorrow at the same time. Bye bye, take care, and have a nice day, dear students.